Welcome to the Eddie Lam Show. We dedicate this podcast to interviewing musicians of every kind, as well as online content creators on social media. Whether if they're starting out or if they're already on the rise and still growing, this show is all about having a fun conversation with our guests, talking about their favorite things that relate to their passion for their projects. Thank you so much for tuning in, and let's have that conversation. If you were ever in need of calm, soothing music full of beautiful harmonies, my guest for this episode provides that specific sound. She's also done music compositions in the style of soundtracks and choir arrangements. She not only does official live shows, but she can also be seen performing at various open mic nights around Vancouver, Canada. Even though she does play guitar while singing, she primarily plays the piano, which is something you don't often see at most open mics, especially in our town. She's collaborated with various local artists, both through recordings and live performances, and she surrounds herself with a community of like-minded musicians who strive to build a supportive environment. My guest for this episode is none other than Atlin Morgan. Okay, everybody, I am here at the studio with this really cool singer-songwriter from Vancouver, BC. And we first met from the open mic nights around town. And of course, that was a couple of years back. And now, fast forward after a couple of years, we've done some shows together. We've attended the same open mic nights around town. And now we are sitting here getting to know about her amazing musical journey. This is Atlin Morgan. Welcome to the show, Atlin. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Thanks, Eddie. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
No problem. So first of all, we got to talk about this with you as a songwriter. Obviously, you have such a huge passion for writing music. When did you realize that you had this interest in writing songs?
I was 3 or 4 years old, and I had a dream about my favorite teddy bear. He was taller than me, this gigantic purple teddy bear. And I had this beautiful dream where we were dancing and this song was playing. And I woke up and that was my first song. I remembered it, sang it for my mom, and been writing songs ever since.
That's amazing. And how did you use like any kind of device to record yourself when you're writing stuff back in the day when you were little?
I didn't really have access to anything for a while. I eventually got a little, I think it was a Fisher-Price tape recorder or something.
Oh, yes.
Pretty basic, but no, we at the time had a player piano. I was living with my mom. My dad and my mom had just split up, and we had a player piano in our suite. And so I started trying to figure things out on there. And then when I'd go to my dad's on the weekends, I'd play on his grand piano and work it out. And eventually, by the time I was 4.5, they thought I should have lessons. So I started formal piano lessons.
That's amazing. Tell me about your experience learning piano. Did you have like a really cool teacher? Were these teachers really helpful with you? Did you learn theory along the way? Tell us about it.
Yeah, my first teacher was this lovely woman who lived in Vancouver. I remember she had this huge beehive hairdo, and she was so friendly and had this incredible little studio in her home. And she started me off with Royal Conservatory, but also the Stephen Foster songbook. And I remember being really taken by his writing and his stories as a kid. So it was nice that she showed me some popular music as well and kind of balanced that out with the classical all the way through. And I had her for many years.
Classical pieces, let's talk about that. What's the most memorable one that you fell in love with?
Probably a lot of people would say this, but I really, really loved Moonlight Sonata when I first got to learn that. It was very dreamy and felt kind of epic. Mm. And by the time I learned it, I think I was maybe 7 or so. I was already falling in love with movie themes and had been starting to write them. And this really reminded me of a movie theme, so I really liked it.
Excellent answer on that. Like you said, you've been exposed to playing pop music as well. Did you remember the first one you've learned, or maybe one that you just fell in love with as well?
Actually, one of my first songs that I loved was not, it's not really pop. It's opera, but it was the first song with words that I really remember loving. I was maybe 3 around the time when I started writing my first songs. My dad was an opera singer in Vancouver Opera, And I got to go along to, I think it was Rigoletto. I can't remember for sure. Anyways, there was the song La Donna Mobile. And I was so taken by the melody that when we got home, I'd made up my own words to the song and rewritten all the lyrics. And yeah, that was sort of my first, I guess, not. I mean, to me, it didn't seem like a classical song. You know, it seemed like kind of more like a pop song. Well, I made it into one anyways.
Nice. It sounds like you did a little bit of your own parody before Weird Al came into the picture.
Oh, yeah. I started it.
Sorry, Weird Al. No, just kidding. No, just kidding. And of course, like you mentioned, you have a very musical family, right?
Very musical, yeah.
Yeah, and have you as a family jammed together before?
Not really. So, like I mentioned, my dad was an opera singer and he did a lot of classical, but my mom was a folk singer.
Mm-hmm.
And so I split my time, living with both of them. Mm-hmm. And my mom would play folk music and she wrote a lot, but then I also listened to her ABBA records and a lot of that kind of influence. And yeah, my dad was so not into pop music. He didn't even know a single Beatles song. So that really shocked me when I found that out. But yeah, no, I listened to, I guess, a lot of radio. So I was really into, all kinds of music, but I had quite a lot of exposure to different things. And at some point, by the time I got into high school, for some reason, I really liked 30s and 40s music. And that started to shape the way I sang. I had been mostly training in classical voice with my dad. Mm-hmm. And yeah, when I heard this old music, especially Ella Fitzgerald, mm-hmm. I was so taken by the style and the warmth in her voice that really started to change the way that I sang.
Talking about your singing style, I mean, of course, when I first met you, one of the artists that comes to mind is obviously, I forgot it. My mind just went blank. The Canadian lady, Pay Paradise put up a parking lot. Sorry, Joni Mitchell.
Oh gosh, yes.
Yeah, Joni. Yeah, so you sound like Joni Mitchell. So that's the first artist that came to mind when I first heard you perform.
Appreciate that. Thank you. That's
of course
a compliment.
Oh, of course. And you were talking about like older songs too, right? You were singing songs like from the 30s or whatever in early decades. For me, I think the earliest artist that came to mind when I first heard you perform, I would say Patsy Cline.
Yeah, I can see that as well.
Yeah. And of course, everyone knows her version of Crazy, and of course, originally written by Willie Nelson, but Patsy did a really cool, like jazzy, loungy version of it, which I thought was such a really nice, beautiful song that. It's very touching too. But when I saw you perform at that open mic night in West Van back 2 years ago, I was just like, wow, like this is very soothing stuff,
Well, thank you.
Of course. And you wrote your own material and you released it online already. You've got a bunch of really cool singles that are out there. Fast forward to present day, obviously you and I, we've been visiting the open mic circuit around town, especially since last year. And it's really encouraging to see someone like you going out there because, when you think about all these different open mics, you're always used to the singer-songwriter who plays guitar. Not that there's anything wrong with that, of course.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Not that there's anything wrong with that. But for someone like you and I who are both piano players, it's really refreshing to see people bring their keyboard and showcase their stuff as well. It's like you brought that game. You opened up a new door for piano players to want to come to open mics where we can bring keyboards and just showcase all the stuff that we could do on it, even if it's not 88 keys, but
exactly
61 keys, 76 keys, whatever it is. But regardless, like now we're showing people, you you can not just bring your guitar, you can also bring your keyboard. Maybe one day someone could bring a bassoon or a tuba,
Right.
or how you and I at one time at the Batch Open Mic, we saw a gentleman bring his saxophone. And I thought that was really awesome to see something like
Yeah,
that.
and I've been seeing accordion as well, which has been really great. Yeah.
Yeah, we did see an accordion, and I think the other fun part was when you see someone thinking outside the box a little bit. I think one time I saw somebody he didn't bring a kick drum, but he used a suitcase, and he just used that as his kick drum instead.
Yeah.
Right, and I think it's cool to see that. But the whole point is just that it's really encouraging just to see other variety of musicians, such as yourself, who's primarily a keyboard player, to bring keys to the open mic night, and not just another guitar, not just another typical stuff that you see at the open mics, but it's different. And I think that's the reason why people pay attention to what you're doing, because it really does stand out. And it does adds that extra nice element to the open mic nights. What are your thoughts on your experiences with the open mic nights within the past few years? Because now you're getting yourself out there so much more. I'm sure obviously you met a great deal of talent. But what are your general thoughts about the open mic night so far?
I think the open mic community in Vancouver is extraordinary. I love it so much. I've met the most amazing people. It's very warm and very welcoming, and there's a ton of talent. I mean, there's so many people that could be on a big stage now, and they just haven't had the opportunity yet. But yeah, it's quite a good community. Everybody's helping each other out. I kind of wasn't expecting that, to be honest. You hear a lot about the music world being like difficult and dog eat dog, and people trying to step on each other to get higher. And I've noticed quite the opposite. Everybody is helping everyone out, giving a helping hand.
Yeah.
We're all trying to figure it out, and then we're sharing that knowledge with our friends and just trying to build each other up. And we've all been giving each other confidence. And yeah, socially too. I was honestly not looking for more friends when I joined this. I thought, this is professional for me. I'm going to get experience being on stage.
Yeah.
And now I have just the loveliest friends, you included. Like we have a great group of people around us that are, it's not just making music, it's also fun socially. So really enjoy that.
Yeah. I think what you've experienced is that you've met the right people along the way.
Absolutely.
And on top of that, people want to go there not to just flex their musical muscles, but from what you and I have witnessed so far, it looks like everybody wants to belong they want to belong to somewhere as a community.
Yeah.
Especially with musicians who want to find the right people to collaborate with. And I think with someone like yourself, from my experience, you're a very approachable person.
Thanks, Eddie.
Very calm personality. Like we feel safe around you, basically.
Oh,
and
thanks.
Yeah, no, of course.
Appreciate that.
No,
Yeah.
of course. And I think that's the one. That's the key thing that I personally feel has been missing in the music scene for quite some time. Sometimes, like you said, I think there have been experiences where it has been a dog-eat-dog world, especially in right here in Vancouver. But I guess it really depends which crowd of people you hang around with.
Yeah, maybe we've just found the greatest people in this community, but it feels like there's very few people that I've met where I was kind of unsure about them. It's just been really quite friendly, I have to say. So
yeah, of course. Yeah, I know. I just want to make sure we don't get into any serious Vancouver music scene gossip here.
Oh, there's no gossip on my end. Nope.
No.
No, it's lovely.
Yeah. So let's talk about the people that you've come along the way on your musical journey within the last couple of years from the open mic scene. Obviously, one of the tracks that you released, which is called Home, it featured the amazingly talented Daniel St. Clair, who some of you guys should get to know, who I hope to have on the show one day. I'm sure this is a foreshadow. This is a foreshadow right here.
Yeah.
And tell us the story about how you first met Dan.
I guess it was gosh, maybe a year and a half ago. I was at the Anne's open mic. That's one of my favorite open mics in Vancouver. And I saw him play and I thought, oh, this guy is pretty good. It was really not a style that I was listening to normally. He's like kind of a fingerstyle folk country player, but he really intrigued me because he was so talented. And then each time I'd see him in an open mic, my ears would prick up as soon as he came on stage. And I eventually met him a couple months later. And I think maybe 4 or 5 months into meeting him, I thought, I really want to collaborate with this guy. Our styles are vastly different, but he's so talented. I feel like he'd be fun to work with. And so I went up to him and I said, hey, do you want to collaborate? And he said, I was just going to ask you, because he had a project going where he was called Trading Originals, and he would collaborate with someone, but they would actually choose an original of theirs and an original of his and get together, and then you would try each other's.
Okay.
And
Nice.
I had just written the song called Home. It came to me actually in a vision, which was really strange. Just out of nowhere, I suddenly saw this blonde woman who wasn't me, singing the song in a jazz club. And I've only had a handful of what I would call like a vision, where it's just this strong image out of nowhere. I've only had a handful in my life, and I thought, well, this is important. And I knew he was going to be coming over to my house to collaborate. And even though it was this super slow jazz song, I felt like, you could just give it a try, but not expecting a duet. It's just going to be for fun.
Yeah.
And he came over the next day. We gave it a try, and his voice was so warm and golden. I immediately knew it had to change from solo to duet. And so
That's right.
I said right then and there, hey, do you want to be on my album? Shall we record this? And he said yes, and the rest is history. So.
And I really do enjoy the track.
Thank you.
Obviously, everybody from the open mic circuit enjoyed your stuff, and having Dan on there, it makes quite the difference. Like you said, just the fact that you two come from two different styles of music,
right?
But you seem to have this moment where both your voices gelled so well.
Yeah, they do. And to the point that we've been working together ever since that song. And I've actually, because I've been hanging out with Daniel and I've been really enjoying his style, I've been getting more country inspired music now. And yeah, we are, what I call a sometimes duo. We do our solo stuff, but we've been collaborating more and performing more and more together. And that's been really fun. Yeah.
When I first heard that song, the first track that came to mind when I was thinking about some old jazz classics, I was thinking about Unforgettable.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Wow. Yeah.
Nat King Cole singing it. And, it's just, I think what it is that it has that nice relaxing tone to this whole thing,
Thank you.
It's a short song, but if you need those few moments to calm yourself down, I would suggest to people, hey, play Home featuring
thanks,
Atlin.
I did want it to be almost therapeutic, to listen to. I wanted that old feel, but also just if you had a hard day, it feels a little better after listening. So appreciate that. Thank you.
No, of course. So let's talk about your songwriting background. Now, the whole world doesn't know about this, probably not, but of course, you yourself have composed for things like, you've made like soundtrack style music and other things outside besides writing just, songs.
Yeah, quite a few different things. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us more about your history on your songwriting.
Yeah. So when I was a kid, I told you I got that tape recorder. And then when I was maybe around grade 2 or so, I started hearing a lot of harmonies in my head. And I figured out if I borrowed my mom's tape recorder and I recorded one track and then pressed play on the other one and then switched the two tapes, I could basically make myself a multi-track recorder. I didn't even really know what that was at the time.
Yeah.
But I figured out how to make, multi-tracks. And I remember recording The Sound of Music. I was also really into musicals as a kid. And I did the song The Sound of Music with 7-part harmony. And I was quite pleased with myself.
That's amazing.
And after that, I started writing choir songs as best I could for that age. And then when I graduated university, and I actually took choral conducting and writing in university as well.
That's right, yeah.
I started writing for choirs, and I've been writing since I was about 20 for choirs, and I've had a number of songs performed. And they're a little bit avant-garde sometimes. I like to use a lot of crunchy harmonies, but harmony is definitely one of my defining features of my music, whether it's my more popular music or choral. It's become my thing, yeah.
Out of curiosity, would some of your inspirations come from someone, say, like Philip Glass? Because he was pretty out there, outside the box.
Not really. I actually wasn't a big fan of Philip. I mean, very talented composer, but...
Sorry, Phil. Yeah, not to knock on Phil or anything.
Not at all, no. But I don't know if there, to be honest, was a choral composer at the time that I was really inspired by. I mean, I enjoyed some composers a lot. I was in choirs in university. But it was more that it came out of my love of movie themes and the beautiful melodies. And so I would initially write a beautiful melody. And then I would hear the harmonies all around it. So
that's right. If you were to collaborate with any composer out there, who, whether it be TV, films, video games, or whatever other soundtracks you can think of, is there anybody that comes to mind who you want to work with?
Yeah, I'm gonna echo Ricky on this one. Was he your last guest? Or
he was my first guest.
Your first guest. Yeah, sorry, Ricky Jab.
Yeah, that's right.
Ricky Jab. Yeah, I was a huge fan of Hans Zimmer growing up.
That's right.
And he was one of my inspirations as a kid to be a film composer. And I also did his master class when that came out. And
no kidding.
When I was quite young, I think it was The Power of One. And I thought, man, this guy can write. And so if I could write something with Hans, that would be like a ultimate goal. So, yeah.
And as of 2024, he will be coming to town fall of this year, from what I understand.
I heard.
He's bringing his orchestra with him, I believe, and I don't know how the live show looks like. I'm going to imagine he's conducting this roster of amazing, talented musicians who are bringing all of these amazing soundtracks to life.
Yeah, I bet it's going to be awesome. Yeah, I wish I could go. I don't think I can.
Because for tickets, right? Oh,
because of the tickets. I know.
Oh, my
goodness. Yeah.
Well, speaking of movie-related sounds, I mean, let's go to your latest track that you released, Can't Let Go. So when we first heard you play that live, both myself and a couple of others from the open mic crew, we were saying, this reminds me of something we would hear on opening of a James Bond theme.
Yes, I heard that many times now.
And so what happened was both myself and one of the open mic folks, as you were playing the song, we grabbed our phones and we looked up a random James Bond opening on YouTube, and we just played it with your music playing.
Yeah.
And we were looking at the credits rolling and everything. We were like, this goes so well with it. So I really suggest to people that you got to listen to Atlin's song "Can't Let Go." So tell us about the whole writing process on that song.
The interesting thing is, a song that has such strong emotions as that one does. You'd imagine that I just went through some terrible breakup and was feeling this way and felt like I had to write the song. And it just came out of nowhere. Not that I haven't been through something like that, but absolutely I'm not going through that at the moment. And just came out of nowhere, really. I feel like I channel feelings around me more than just sharing personal experiences. I heard the melody for it and went to the piano. And within about 30 minutes, I had the entire song done. And it felt quite powerful. And so I felt like this is a song that I should share. even though it's not directly my current experience. But I was not intending to write any kind of Bond style theme at all. It just, the chords are quite heavy and there's a lot of dissonance, and it just kind of came out that way. But I'm realizing it is a bit of a style that is coming out of me, because the one of my next singles is going to be House of Cards, and that one is even more Bond-like. I mean, I feel like they should make, if there is not a Bond movie called House of Cards, they need to make one, because this has to be the theme. And I just like really emotional, evocative kinds of songs. And that's becoming my, I think, dominant style. And it's fun. It's fun to just let go. When I write these, I just absolutely let myself go when I sing them, and just give it everything I have, to the point that I get so much adrenaline I'm shaking. But it feels really good. It's very cathartic. Yeah.
And going back to with you writing for choirs, now let's fantasize a little bit. So let's say you get to lead a choir of 50 people. What song would you want your choir to sing? Do you have anything, like any popular song or any kind of opera piece or classical piece you would want them to recreate? Actually,
I am finishing recording on a song called Carry You that will be on my upcoming album in the fall.
Nice.
And it is kind of a choir song. It's almost gospel style, and I'm imagining a huge choir. So for my recording, I'll probably do the layers myself, and it'll all be me. But ultimately, I'm imagining singing this with a big choir behind me. And I got a tiny taste of that. I did a show at Trees Coffee House last September, and a couple of friends of mine, they did some of the harmonies. And so I had a bit of a feel for how that would go. But I think it could be kind of an epic song. So
that's right. And I'm going to test my memory here. So I'm going to recall that was both Charlotte and Jordana who sang with you on that one.
Yes. Yeah. Charlotte Legee and Jordana Delgado. Yeah. Yeah. Really talented local musicians. Good job, Eddie. Good job.
All right. Yeah. This is the Atlin trivia.
You were paying attention.
I've been paying attention. Yeah. I'm trying to test my local music trivia knowledge here. So, so tell me more about your experience working with Charlotte and Jordana. I mean, obviously, all three of you shared that common instrument, which is the piano.
Yeah.
So your experience working with both these talented musicians, tell me about why you've enjoyed working with these two.
Well, first off, they're lovely people. Just really, really nice. And both very talented with the piano, and share my passion for singing, songwriting, and just making good music. And it was just really nice to collaborate with them, because I hadn't sung with anyone since I had to leave choir a few years ago due to some ear issues.
Right.
And it was just, there's nothing like singing with other people. There's just a very special feeling that I get when I'm doing that. So it was a special moment on stage to preview that song with these two lovely women.
Yeah. And I know we all know that both Jordana and Charlotte, they've both performed and written their own stuff as well.
Yes, lots. And Jordana's just about to release a single, I think, in a few days here. And and Charlotte writes a lot, and she's planning to record as well. So that's amazing. Very talented songwriters. Yeah.
I think this is a foreshadow again that we need to get
them on here
on the show. Yes, exactly. So traveling forward to where we are now with the open mic scene, obviously, like you mentioned, Trees, and of course myself, I've gone back to Trees for the first time after 10 years. I think sometime in late April. This was after my trip after I came back from my trip in China.
Right.
So I was still recovering from my jet lag, of course, but it was nice to go back to Trees after 10 years, and after that experience, I remember like the vibe was still the same. It was super supportive,
really supportive.
And Mark was really happy to see me back again, and I was really glad to see him, because I'm just like, wow, there's a face I haven't seen in so many years, right?
Yeah, Mark D'Souza, such a great host of that open mic.
Yeah, big shout out to him. And what I really enjoyed about that was just it's open to all ages. Everyone's welcome to perform whatever. Of course, you got amazing cheesecake at the cafe.
Yeah.
Promotion right there, folks. But when you first went to Trees, what was your experience like?
Yeah, so that was actually, I think, the first time that I collaborated with Daniel.
That's right.
And I'd heard about Trees, but I had a friend that it wasn't really her thing, and so it kind of put me off. And I'd avoided going there for many months. And so I jammed with Daniel, and then he said, Atlin, there's this really nice open mic. It's called Trees downtown. Do you want to check it out with me? I'm like, oh, sure. I was a little reticent. But I thought, I'm sure he knows what he's talking about. And I went there, and as soon as I walked in the door, it was so friendly, and I just loved the vibe. And I met a number of good friends there, and I've been going back until recently when I've just been too busy. I went almost for a year, nearly every week.
Wow.
Aside from the one time when it would be Anza, I would go to Trees, and I was very, very devoted. And I still am. When I get a chance, I absolutely love it. But it's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think what I like about it too is just that, for those who may not drive, it's easy to get there by the SkyTrain.
It's right across the street from SkyTrain. It's awesome. And close to all the bus routes too.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah. So again, shout out to Mark for that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, of course, you and I, we've been to the Batch open mic night as well, and we've been to some other places around town.
Container Brewing.
Container Brewing, yes, of course, yeah. So it seems like, despite how much we've lost venues in recent years, there seems to be new ones that try to pop up and try to support local music as much as possible.
There's a few, yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any general thoughts about that with the state of the music scene here in Vancouver? Because we've known some places that you and I we've loved so dearly that are gone.
Yes.
And we know that can be very discouraging. But what are your general thoughts about that with the state of our local scene when stuff like this happens?
I think it's actually going really well. People since the pandemic realized that there's not enough venues and there needs to be more, and it feels like there's more musicians than ever. We were all just kind of trapped in our homes, not able to do much, and then it was like we got let out of our cages and just went for it. And there are so many amazing people that are being creative with space and creating new venues. Like there's Green Auto in East Van, which is it's got some amazing shows there.
I've been there a couple of times. Yeah.
Very creative way to, create a venue. I went to a show on Kingsway the other day. It was like the back of what looked like an old grocery store. People are just making venues all over the place, and they're quite well supported. I feel like a lot of people are coming out to support shows. Daniel put on a show the other day that I was part of, and it sold out almost a week before. So I'm like, either people are really, really keen to support local arts, or, we had a good buzz going, but it was incredible. We sold out that early, and I think that's happening a lot. Yeah.
And not to mention, of course, you and Dan and Brittany and that whole crew, you're all talented folks that people want to go see.
Oh, so. Thanks, Eddie. Yeah, we were hoping that's why too, but I mean, it's a good sign that we can do that.
Yeah.
And that other places I've here, are selling out as well. So that bodes well for the music scene. I think it's going in the right direction. Yeah,
I believe so too. I think also on top of that, what's been making the music scene so good within the last couple of years, as you were saying, you and I, we've been meeting the right type of people who are quite the opposite of, at least from what I've experienced. I've experienced some really toxic people from the scene too back in the day, right? And because unfortunately people have that business dog eat dog mentality. But then when I meet the current roster of the open mic nights now, it's like, wow, the vibe has changed so much, and also for the better. In a way, of course, to all, just first of all, to everyone out there who I've met along the way, who I'm still friends with, you guys are the real, true heroes who've made the scene so good, even during the darkest times. So, so just giving that shout out to those folks that I'm still friends with today. There's a good reason why I still stick around with them too. So, but going back to even the present right now, all these current stars that we see. I say stars because everyone at that open mic is super talented. Yeah. But the current stars that we see now at the open mic scene, they're also some of the nicest people that you and I have met.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I can see why you collaborate with them in different ways, whether it be like the live shows or sort of recordings and all that. Is there someone locally that you look forward to collaborate with in the future?
You mean locally that is not one of my friends? Like that isn't part of the scene?
From the open mic scene.
Oh, gosh. Oh, there's so many. Honestly, I've got a list. And I've asked a lot of people and they've asked me. And I think Charlotte Legui's next on the list here. And
hey, Charlotte.
I will be collaborating more with Elliot Spilsbury. He played guitar on my Hibernate track that I released.
Right. Yeah.
And we will be recording in July. We're going to record a track that we've written together, and we'll be writing more. And honestly, there's many more, more out there. I mean, what a talent pool. Like, I wish I had, 200 years to collaborate with everybody. So.
Oh, no. Well, going to put this idea out there for you. You were saying that your future tracks, you're going to hopefully get a nice choir of people to join in on it. Well, maybe it's a good open invitation to everyone from the local scene to...
Maybe I should be doing a choir. Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
I mean, no shortage of people, that's for sure, that could do that.
Yeah, so there you go.
Thanks.
Nice. Yeah. So going back to your originals, I see a nice little theme that we got going on here, at least from my personal perspective. They're based on seasons. So
there's quite a bit. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So Can't Let Go. Obviously, you got Sounds of the Rain, right? And then of course we got songs like Hibernate, September, Home. In a way, if you want to look at it as in like we all have home. We were all going to be inside a home, no matter what season it is. But home is the place to be. If it's too hot, if it's too cold, right?
Yeah. No, I didn't really think of it like that. Yeah, you're right. I do have a few. Yeah, this album is quite seasonal for sure. That's coming out here. It's funny you should mention that. I was asked to open for Jordana. She is doing a music release party in July, and she asked me to do my seasonal songs. So there you go. She said, you have a lot of seasonal songs, and I hadn't really thought about it so much. Yeah. There you go. Yeah, especially with September there. Yeah.
I'm assuming you're a nature person with all of this.
I absolutely am. Actually, a number of the songs that were going to be on this album coming out got cut. They just didn't quite have the right vibe, but all of them are nature songs. And there's so many of them I'm going to do after this album, a nature-related EP. So, yeah, being born in Vancouver and raised in the rainforest area.
You and I both, yeah.
Yeah, you get it. Like it's hard not to love nature, and it's a beautiful place to grow up.
Yes, of course. And when we talk about that, like that one awesome picture of you and Dan sitting at a table outside.
Oh, yeah.
It just that whole Alice in Wonderland kind of theme, right? Because how Alice in Wonderland, she sits with all these characters outdoors,
right at the tea party,
the tea party table, right? So I mean, the visuals you had for that track on Spotify, for instance, that's actually pretty clever in my personal opinion.
Thank you. That was really fun to come up with. Yeah, I kind of the funny behind the scenes of that is. I had this big dining table that we had to sell.
Okay.
And I had stored it at a friend's house. And then she had to move and said, you're going to have to take this table back like right away. But we had nowhere to put it. We have like a tiny house. And that's my husband and my kids and I, we all share this little home. And so I had it in the back of our big family car. And I thought, what am I going to do with this table?
Yeah.
And so it was just sitting there. And I thought, it'd be kind of neat to have a photo where Daniel and I are outside, and yet it feels like you're inside. Kind of the feeling like the track, like home is anywhere that you make it kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was kind of a fun idea. So it was definitely challenging carrying all of that across the park and, setting it all up. And the ground was so uneven that the wine glasses were like sliding down the table, and we had to try to, fix it up. And both of us were literally getting pitched out of our chairs.
Oh.
So I don't know how he managed to like hold that guitar. And he was actually playing the whole photo shoot.
No kidding.
My sister was sweet. She came and took all the photos. And somehow he managed to play that whole time, but I was almost falling out, just trying to look cool and casual, but really we're like falling off our chairs. So it was such a fun shoot. Freezing cold, but yeah, it turned out it looks warm in the photo, and that's what I wanted, that feeling of home. So I think we captured it.
I think your sister captured it really well.
She did a great job.
Shot. Yeah.
Yeah.
So shout out to her.
That was the money shot for sure.
Yeah. But what I really enjoyed with this, going back to the song "Home," everyone, like I said before, everyone from the open mic scene fell in love with that track.
Aww.
It got to the point, how our friend Summer, she even sang that song with you guys too at the open mic one time.
Yeah, before she moved. That was so lovely.
Yeah, and so with that being said, I mean, you got to think about like how it's that amazing feeling that you must have when all your friends from the music scene, they're singing your songs.
I have to say, there's nothing better. That was amazing. Yeah, it was a really nice feeling. That was, I think for my birthday, I had it at Batch, and a bunch of people were singing along. And and one of my favorite moments is actually my friend Brandon played September.
That's right.
And that was the first time that somebody had actually covered my song. And it was so much fun. It was really cool. So yeah. Nice feeling in that community.
Yeah. And that's something I think that we should talk about too. Just the fact that, for you and I in the music scene for so many years, with open mics being such a fun experience for us, it's like, you and I, we were willing to celebrate our birthdays at the open mics.
Absolutely. Yeah. I know, that was my first choice. That's the first thing I thought of. So that definitely says something. Yeah,
it does say a lot. And like if you look at the roster, like you were saying, ever since you hung out at these open mic nights for the last couple of years or so, your circle of friends grew from there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because I remember that experience too myself. When I used to go to Cafe du Soleil open mic back in the day too, like a huge chunk of my friends I've made along the way were from that open mic as well. And I remember spending my birthday quite a number of times there. But but to see your birthday experience there too, I was just like, man, this is such a cool sight to see. Like, not just, like eating cake with you, but people are singing your songs during that open mic as well to make it extra special.
Very special. Yeah. That was cool.
Yeah.
It's amazing how close I've become with so many people in such a short time. I mean, because I've been going to open mics for 2 years now, but it's even in the last few months I've just met so many people, and it's become such a cohesive group, and it's really cool. I wish I could have done it sooner. I took many years off songwriting to be a full-time parent. And I basically started my family right when I had started my career. So I hadn't really gotten it going. And so, it's great now that they're old enough that I can get back into this. I closed my teaching studio. I was teaching for many years as well. But it feels great to be just writing songs and performing them. And that's what I've wanted to do my whole life. And I'm so lucky. I said, to my husband, if I had all the money in the world and all the time and could do anything that I want, I would still be doing what I'm doing right now. So I'm very fortunate.
Yeah. And honestly, like I said, you've honestly have been in the right direction with the release of your tracks, and just seeing your name getting around more and more and doing live shows. I thought it's really amazing, like, with you being able to do these live shows, like, you've really displayed that, hey, you know what, like, even I myself, despite all the different musical adventures I've had, like, I can still go out there and show you what I've written, and also maybe, like something I'm still learning, but I'm going to showcase that.
That's right. Yeah.
And I think that's really impressive that you do
Thank
that.
you.
And even going back to the whole thing with the songwriting process, you've done all the recording yourself.
Yes,
Yeah.
I have. And
Yeah.
mixing now. I've spent hundreds of hours mixing and learning how to do that.
Yeah.
It's been very, very satisfying. Yeah.
Do you find it's more of a challenge to do mixing or editing, or recording? What do you think is more of the bigger challenge?
Recording is pretty easy, I have to say.
Yeah.
Even though I'm recording from home and it's a very basic setup. I mean, one of the challenges that I don't have soundproofing in my home at all.
Right.
And I live by the harbor. So between the seaplanes and the helicopters and the trains and the boats, it can be quite noisy. So I record in between all of those noises. But yeah, mixing can be a big challenge. Partly, and this is also something I think that Ricky Chubb said, that you just feel like it's never done. Like it's so hard to just say, okay, this is it. And this is going to be sent to TuneCore or whatever, and I'm done. Like, it's so difficult. And I've had to learn to sort of, recognize when it's okay and to not keep going, because you could mix forever.
Yeah.
So I'm figuring that out, but it's challenging. But I think arranging is actually the most difficult for me. The song comes easily, the recording's easy, but figuring out exactly which instruments to use and how to use them to create that sound in my head that I don't always know how to put out in the world, that is the hardest part. So I need to get better at that.
No, but I really admired the fact that you take the time to do all that. It's like you're one of the most DIY artists I've ever seen.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, of course. And my hat's off to you for that, because everyone who out there who has recorded in music, everyone knows who experienced that. It's very time consuming. For those who don't know about that behind the scenes, we're just telling you that right now. It's super time consuming, at least for me. Even in the editing process, we want to make sure, was this a good take? Should we do it again? Oh man, okay, now are the guitars too loud? Oh no, wait, are the drums too soft? I gotta fix that. But at least that was my experience in mixing. But I think everyone has their challenges when it comes to doing self-production, because we all know that like a DIY recording for a lot of us musicians, it's fun though, because it's like you don't have to worry about booking the studio ahead of time. You can just go straight to your desk and press record, get your instruments ready, and boom, that's it, right?
Yeah.
But I think what's really great that you're showcasing is that being a DIY musician helps a lot, because now you're getting all these different knowledges that you can pass on just from your personal experiences, and I think it's giving you more stories to tell.
Absolutely, yeah, it has. And I mean, I've enjoyed it to the point and feel confident enough that I have started producing friends' first singles. So even though I said I would never be a producer, and I don't hardly have, any time for my own songs, there are some such talented people in the group that I've actually offered my services to them. So it's kind of a neat next step. So it'd be nice to help them. Yeah.
Well, speaking of production, is there any artist that you would dream to produce in the future? Anyone very well known?
Oh gosh. Honestly, I hadn't really thought about that. I've thought about collaborating with all kinds of people, but not producing, because they always just have such great producers. But something for me to think about. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, how about then collaborating with a current star? Is there anybody that comes to mind?
There's a few. So Dan Mangan is local, and
that's right.
I'm a big admirer, because we worked together when we were really young, and we started off in the same place and used to share music together that we'd written. And, we were both like, one day we're going to make it. And he's done so well. He made it.
That's right. Yeah.
And we were going to collaborate way back then, and didn't make it happen. And yeah, I think it would be amazing one day. I just love his songwriting style, and his lyrics are just amazing. It'd be a fun one to collaborate with for sure, especially now that I'm writing more folk music and a little bit more his style. I think it would be really fun. Yeah, after all this time.
Yeah, that's amazing. Let's say money's not an issue. Let's say you got the opportunity to travel anywhere in the world to attend any kind of music festival or concert. Is there any dream concert festival that you want to go to as an audience member?
Well, Radiohead as a band isn't really together anymore, but there's a few members, including my hero, Tom York, who have the Smile now, and they're not usually playing in North America. So yeah, if I could go see the Smile play, that would be amazing. I'm also a huge fan of Johnny Flynn in Ireland, and he plays a lot around the UK, but not here yet. I keep waiting, so I'd love to go see him. And Cecilia Bartoli, she's like my classical singing hero of all time. She made me want to be an opera singer.
Wow.
And then Tom York switched me to want to be a singer-songwriter.
Yes.
But I still admire her so much, and she mostly plays in Europe. So I might just have to go to Europe and the UK and hear all these folks. So
for sure.
One day. Yeah.
For sure. So you mentioned Radiohead. OK Computer, obviously one of the best albums out there. I mean, of course,
changed my life.
Yeah,
changed my life.
Of course, I know to some fans out there it's debatable, but but for me, I'm a huge, I love OK Computer as well. But what's your favorite track on there, or at least maybe like you have like a top 3, top 5?
Oh my gosh, that's so tough. I think what got me initially was Karma Police. There's something about that, and I still like see that reflected in my style after all these years. Really like Let Down.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I don't know. Like except for not a big fan of Fit or Happier, but
oh really? Oh okay.
That track, they could have left it off. I can see why it's on there, but yeah. I mean, that album is gold from start to finish. So it was that album. I was about to become a classical singer, and I was doing quite well, and it absolutely derailed me. I was getting honors in a 4-year music degree.
Right on.
And after I heard that album, I thought, you know what? I cannot be a classical singer. I need to write like these guys. And it completely switched my life over. So yeah, big inspiration.
Would you ever want to jam with Tom York?
Oh gosh, that would be beyond incredible. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've made so many recordings now in my life where I'm like singing harmonies with him.
Yeah.
And that would be, pretty amazing. So you never know. But actually our voices go really well together. So.
I agree. I do agree 100% on that one.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you never know where life takes you. So.
Yeah. Now, have you ever learned to play Radiohead songs on piano?
Oh yeah, most of them, I'd say. Yeah, lots on guitar. I used to play a lot of guitar actually.
That's right,
before the pandemic. But I can play most of them on the piano. So.
What about Paranoid Android? Same deal.
Oh, maybe not. But Spinning Plate sounds really cool.
Oh yeah, the live version.
The live version.
Oh my goodness, that piano was so beautiful. The live version.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. And this is, and not too many people would know about this, but I mean, if you ever hear Tom York's solo stuff as well, some of the stuff is pretty cool out there. Like there's that one song called Analyze, and if you guys haven't seen the live version on YouTube, I would suggest you check that out. I had an ex-bandmate who actually showed me that song, and then I heard it. I'm just like, wow. Like, I know it's not Radiohead, but man, that sounds incredible. Yeah,
his solo stuff is really good too.
Yeah.
I mean, anything he does is quite amazing.
Yeah. But has there been any Radiohead songs that you felt it's a bit overplayed and you got tired of it?
I'm sure. I mean, Radiohead themselves was like done with Creep.
Yeah,
it was kind of not even supposed to be a real song. Like they were just jamming, waiting for a producer, I think.
Yeah.
And yeah, that song came out, but it wasn't meant to be out there in the world. So I think that one is overplayed. I mean, people do great versions of it, but yeah, there's just so much other material that can be chosen, you know, to play. So,
which Radiohead song do you think deserves a bit more love?
Oh boy,
It could be the non-hits too.
that's a good question. I don't know. I don't really know what people are thinking these days of it. I don't really know what the reception is, but I don't know if Moon-Shaped Pool really got the attention it deserves. I mean, all the tracks on that album are just so evocative and so interesting, and I love the mood that it creates. So, you know, when I ask people about their favorite Radiohead albums, they often don't even mention that or didn't even hear it, you know. Maybe it was past like their biggest days, but it's a really cool album. Yeah.
I think my personal favorite is There from 2002.
Oh gosh. Oh, that is such a great song. Although I think that was pretty big at the time because of the video, that really cool video. Did you see that where he's in the woods?
It's the Wind in the Willows styled claymation, basically.
Yeah. And then he ends up turning into the tree in the end.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that song is such a cool song. I've been playing Radiohead and, you know, that kind of music for my kids since they were like in utero, actually. And for many years, I ran like a glee club at my kids' elementary school. Mm-hmm. There's no music programs, unfortunately, in a lot of schools.
Mm-hmm, that's right.
And so it was breaking my heart that these kids weren't getting music. So I started a glee club and we started putting on shows. And we do all kinds of things, like we did, like, you know, pretty much like all the best music I tried to show from like the last 50, 60 years.
That's right, yeah.
We did a lot of Queen, actually. Anyways, yeah, I showed the kids There, and it just blew their minds. Like they had never heard anything like it. Yeah. And these days, there just isn't a lot written like that.
Yeah, that's right.
And so we performed it like for the school, and the kids sounded awesome.
That's
doing
amazing.
Radiohead, and we did choreography, and yeah,
wow,
it was a pretty fun part of the show.
So out there.
Yeah.
So you and I are both music educators, right?
Yeah.
What do you think is the most important thing for your students to get out of learning music from you?
I'm not currently teaching, but when I was, I wanted them to have a love of music. You know, learning the notes, learning the theory, yes, that's important. But I want them to grow into adults that can appreciate music. Even if they're not doing piano lessons anymore, they don't become professional musicians, that they can love music for their whole lives and appreciate it, I think is really, really important. And to have fun with it, you know, like I did teach them the basics, but also I would encourage them to be creative, to not just look at the page, you know, to write their own things. I did teach songwriting and composition and wanted them just to enjoy it. You know, right. I know that when I grew up, I hated practicing, but I loved music enough that I did it.
Yeah, of course.
But a lot of my friends, like they were forced to have lessons, you know, they would go with heavy hearts every time to their classes and just, it was not for them.
Right.
And yeah, they never learned that love of music because it was all about just the practicing and,
that's right,
and all that. So yeah, it's just to appreciate it. It's just such a wonderful thing. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What about to all upcoming artists that are trying to get into the local scene, especially in Vancouver? Is there any kind of words of wisdom that you want to give to them as well?
Yeah, I would say perform as much as you possibly can. Perform more than you need to. You know, if you can do 2 days in a row, you know, you need to build not just experience, but also stamina. Like it's not easy being a musician. Mm-hmm. If you end up being, you know, somewhat successful, you're going to be touring. Like you need to just get used to doing it a lot. And a lot of us have nerves and stage fright. And I'd say for the first year of doing open mics, I was really terrified. I had terrible stage fright. Mm-hmm. And the more that I did it, I mean, I know they tell you that, but one day it was just like overnight, it was gone. It was terrible. And then it was fine. And I started doing 3 to 4 open mics a week.
Wow.
And I have to say that made the biggest difference. It became just a normal part of my life. And I enjoyed it so much. And the nerves, like I would be excited, but not terrified to the point that I would feel sick, which I did feel before.
That's
so just
right.
play as much as you can. watch other musicians, learn from them.
Yeah.
Learn from the good stuff they do, learn from their mistakes, and also just be inspired. The more that you watch other talented people, the more you're inspired yourself and you learn a lot from them.
That's amazing. I'm really glad you brought that, because I'm when you and I started going back to the open mics again, post COVID, right? You and I, we've seen an explosion of new talent that's coming out, both young and elderly as well, which I think is really fascinating.
A big range of ages. It's really cool.
Yeah. So to everyone out there, if you're an elder, it's not too late. You can still do amazing things musically too. And to all the young folks, like what Atlin was saying just now, please get yourselves out there, because that's very, very important. So one more question to wrap up this conversation. Well, first of all, thank you so much for being a part of this.
Thank
episode.
You so much, Eddie. It's been such a pleasure to speak with you today.
Oh, anytime. So let's talk about the most memorable concert you've ever attended as an audience member. Which one have you enjoyed the most?
I would have to say my first Radiohead concert. After listening to them and having them change my life in that way. I hadn't actually seen them live at that point.
Yeah.
And I managed to go to their tent tour, which was in the UK. And the entire tour was in these big circus tents they had rented because they had read Naomi Klein's book called No Logo, I believe it was called, and did not want to have any corporate sponsorship on their venues.
That's right, yes.
And so I went, and I actually arrived with my friend the day before we had tickets, and it ended up being an hour before the show. We scalped tickets. I saw them twice in a row, and totally validated my, reason for changing my career plans and everything. Like,
that's amazing.
It was, not disappointing in the least.
I guess we could consider them as one of the biggest DIY bands in that way, with something like that happening too, hey?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're trailblazers in a lot of ways. So.
That's awesome. So speaking of DIY, so folks, you've heard it from the amazing Atlin Morgan, who is also an amazing DIY musician who's from here in Vancouver, BC. Again, Atlin, thank you so much for being a part of the show. How can we find you on the interwebs?
Okay, pretty much everywhere now. I've got my own website, atlinmorgan.com. On Instagram, it's just @Atlin Morgan, and I'm on all streaming platforms for my current 5 singles and more on the way.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Atlin, and thank you everyone for tuning in.
Thanks, Eddie.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of The Eddie Lam Show, a podcast dedicated to interviewing musicians and online content creators of every kind. If you would like to be a guest on the program, feel free to send me an email at eddielammusic@gmail.com. That's EDDIELAM music@gmail.com. Don't forget to check out my website at eddielammusic.ca. That's EDDIELAMmusic.ca. You can also follow me on social media. Username is Eddie Lam Music. That's EDDIELAM Music on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Thank you so much for tuning into our program. In the meantime, stay in touch, stay safe, and as always, stay awesome.